Hello, my name is Brant Hunt, and my channel simply is Discerning What is True. My talk tonight will be a very short one, simply called How the West is Destroying Freedom by Keeping People Divided. Keeping people divided. And what I mean simply is, well, political party systems are actually one party system, but they're actually keeping you divided because one party calls themselves the Republicans and the other considers themselves Democrats. It's also, if you look at the Republicans and Democrats, you'll notice that simply if you there are two different forms of government based upon those two political parties. The Republican Party's basically saying they're, not saying, but basically by their name, simply it's a form of government called republic, that is. And the Democrats are basically speaking out what they call democracy. That whole word democracy was basically invented around the early 1900s, which democracy itself means mob rule. That's what it means. Meaning that someone can, outvote you and basically, 50.1% can tell the other 49.9% of the people, what they can do and how they can do it type of thing. And so what you do by you going out and quote unquote voting and thinking you're doing the right thing, you're actually dividing people. This is a tool, folks. This is a tool. First of all, you're giving government consent to rule over you by you simply voting. It's not rocket science, folks. Most of you are completely lost. You don't have any idea what's going on. But I can give you some wisdom, very straightforward wisdom. Simply by you voting, you're saying simply, I believe in my government, and I believe they should rule over me. You see, I believe that simply is that they are, God, but they're not God. You see, okay. And so these are just basic principles. So when you do that, you're saying if no one voted, folks, there would be no one in office, you see, because you're giving them consent to rule over you by voting. And you people out there that continue to do this, you're causing more harm to the rest of us who are not doing this. Because you don't understand the big picture. All you see is the small picture. You're completely blind in what is going on right before your eyes. Okay? The idea simply is to continue, as the media is used also as a tool, a ploy to cause also division. And that plays right in the hands of what we call keeping people divided. And one side is fearful of the other side. I don't know if I can trust that person because they're so and so, such and such. And so they build walls. This is what you're doing. You're building walls between your neighbors and such. And until you realize this, you're actually causing destruction within your own country. You're doing the work for them. You see, you are actually helping them to bring about destruction of this country. You see, and your fears also keep you divided. By your fears, you are allowing it to happen because I'm afraid that such and such is going to get something from me. They're going to get something this and that. So they prey upon that. You see, knowing that simply is you're going to be voting based upon your fears, not based upon what you want, but based upon what you're fearful of. The other critical part is simply we have to understand something very critical here. Is that if we don't start loving one another and begin to see what is really going on, we're not going to have any freedoms, period. Meaning simply is we've got to realize simply is that I have more in common with my brother and sister such and such out here instead of me quote unquote, well, I don't agree with them on this certain point. But that's not the majority part, you see. You see, this is again how they use this tool they use to quote unquote keep people divided. And so what you're doing simply is I can't get along with my neighbor or such and such because, well, they're such and such type of person, such and such. Yes, but they are a human being. They deserve just as much freedom as you deserve freedom. So let's all work together, you see. Let's all work together instead of quote unquote dividing one another. And it's also understand the idea of simply loving one another. That is to help others who are in need and not seeing, oh, what I want to get out of something from somebody else. You see, this is the whole idea simply is how they stay in power, so to speak. And so most people are just unaware of what's going on because simply they want to quote unquote bury their heads into the sand and pretend everything's okay when it's not okay, folks. And I don't, I'm not here about my whole idea. Simply is that you must see the bigger picture. Unless we learn how to love one another as we truly should and care about others, we're going to be fighting one another eventually. We're going to be eventually fighting one another. That's what they want us to do. You see, that's what they call civil wars. You see, you fight against each other, and you destroy one another. So you're going to have to. And I'm talking to myself in some ways, but it just come to realization the other night when I was watching a particular video, and it just kind of struck me and said, "Wait a minute, you know, we're missing a big picture because simply is that we all come from God. We all are God's children. Black, white, red, yellow, doesn't matter. All of us are children of God. Now, and that's a general statement, so to speak, you see. And you have free will to choose whatever you want to believe, such and such. You should have throughout the whole world, as long as it doesn't cause harm to others. But once you go in the area of going to be harmful to others, you're violating. You're violating what I'm gonna call the law of love. The law of love to others, to do no harm to other people, but also to care about other people in your neighborhood. Or eventually you're going to be fighting one another. This is the whole stir up of all this going on, in my opinion. And I don't want to make this a long video. That's not what this point, but it's just very simple principles. You need to learn to love yourself, and you need to also not only love yourself and appreciate who you are, but you also need to give and help others no matter what, whatever situation they are in. If their car breaks down, I know that one day I had a gentleman who came up to me, and I being a white person, and this gentleman was a black person, and I couldn't get my car started because I had I have a dead battery. I have the cables to go to the car, but I don't have someone else that can actually help me. And this gentleman helped me to do that and got my car started, so I could go down to the auto parts store and get another battery. That's what you call helping one another. And I saw some things that something in the rural areas of the country are like that. In a video I saw tonight, I saw what I call simply people and neighbors helping each other. That's love, folks. That's caring for one another. That's treating one another. That's how it used to be in this country. That's how it used to be. But now it's become a dog eat dog type world. And unfortunately, now the situation is simply far worse than it was in the past, because simply is most people in the past would actually work for food, approximately 100 years ago. They would do that. Now it's gotten to the point simply is there's no what I would call morals or what I would call respect for other human life. They simply will steal. And so you see what's going on here is the breakdown of a civilization. The last, what we call the Western civilization, is collapsing upon itself. It's not from a quote unquote outside enemy, which is what they always want you to think. It actually is what is happening is simply you are fighting one another. The enemy is already inside the gates and is provoking things to provoke you to quote unquote fight one another. That's what they want you to do. And you're going to have to grow up and be men and women here because they want you to act like children, you see. And so I'm just sharing this information to you. It's just basic, what I call basic principles. And I think that simply is the West itself, the Western civilization, is destroying itself by itself. It's just committing suicide. That's what it's doing. And it's causing all kinds of, certain people. As you get older, you see this. You've gotten older. See, I'm 63 years old, so I see these things that most people at 30 years old have no idea what's going on. So anyway, I just want to share this video with you tonight. It's getting late, actually, here, and I just thank you for listening, and I wish you a good night. You take care.